We've been repeatedly told or been asked during this pandemic to try to use contactless payment systems instead of cash in the hope that might help limit the spread of COVID-19. But is that really the case? Not according to our next guest, who is Tim Wildash. He's Chief Executive Officer of a business called Next Payments that provides payment services and hardware. And as well, Tim also had a company that provided automatic teller machines, ATMs in shops and clubs and the like. Hello, Tim. Thanks for joining For the Duration.
Yes, good afternoon. Thanks for having me.
So we've even had businesses rejecting cash payments altogether, but you're saying that's not right. Why not?
Well, I think the grounds that they've stopped using cash was taken from some very cleverly crafted PR material by a couple of very successful companies that benefit from people not using cash. And therefore the merchants felt that cash was unsafe. They stopped using it. They stopped, having their staff having to use cash for safety reasons. Of course, that was untrue. And the WHO, the Royal Mint, the RBA, and many others around the world have said, no, cash is safe, and there's been no problems with it. So, yeah, we got a little bit angry at that one, Chris.
But, Tim, it is Chris here, actually. Something like a quarter of transactions are only in cash in Australia at the moment. It's been said that in the middle of the 20s we'll be a cashless society, if that's true or not. I mean, people seem to be voting with their feet, if not with their stuffed wallets, that they do like paying with plastic or different payment systems, as in the kind of market you work in.
Yes, agree. We, like everyone, we enjoy the convenience of tap and go and other forms of card payments, but we all thought they would level out at around 27%. The RBA thought that was the number that would level out to, and it would have a long tail. We say that it will last for a long time at around about that rate. But some pretty clever PR has interrupted those thoughts, and we've had a bit of a hit on cash recently. But I'm pleased to say, with the opening up of venues in New Zealand and here, people are rushing back for cash. That the people that love cash.
Tim,
there's lots of them.
Tim, you talk about how some companies have got a vested interest in cashless transactions, but you're the other way, aren't you? I mean, you've got a vested interest in cash. That's your business.
Yeah, around about 45% of our revenue comes from cash transactions. The rest comes from cards. So we have our feet in both camps, but we like to see a balanced argument.
But I think your argument, well, it's not just your argument, because this is an argument from Sweden as well, that where they've moved far more to a cashless society, is that there's a good portion of people who have no choice in it, the elderly, the marginalised, who actually rely on cash. They might not have cards with accounts, they might not have iPhones with Apple Pay or whatever. They are left out of the payment systems revolution.
They might just simply be not online for whatever reason.
Or they're concerned about privacy or whatever else. Who's looking after them?
Well, they've got to fend for themselves, and lucky enough, the Swedish government reacted very quickly and legislated that certain venues and banks have to have a certain amount of cash. So the Swedish government has been reintroducing cash at a rapid rate. But it's a lot more serious than that. There's a lot of people that simply can't manage their money as well as some of us might be able to do. So therefore, if they go out with a card, they can overspend. We've got $52 billion in credit card debt at the moment in this country, and it's normally by people that can't afford to pay the 16% interest rates that apply to those credit cards. So there's lots of reasons why I think we should keep cash. And I think the Barefoot Investor, he's one of the big supporters of cash. Scott Pape, a very well-read man and a very wise man in payments.
Yeah, something like 500,000 Australians still have a bank account with no linked debit card. But cash, I suppose, also, as you've said, there is a hurdle of getting out your wallet, handing over cash, money, as opposed to just tap and go, or even contactless, even when it's even more contactless than that. Payment becomes easier, and control of your budget may well become harder.
Yes, well, that's very true. Controlling the budget's all important. And as we've seen with so many of the new forms of credit, the afterpays, whatever, a lot of people simply cannot control their spending. If you take $100 cash out and that's all you've got on you, all you can do is spend $100 for the weekend. If you take your card out, you can get in debt for $300-400. And people have proven that's what they do. That's what the $52 billion worth of credit card debt is. And it's an average of 16.3%. Now, I just can't see how that's good for the Australian consumer.
So you mentioned the Swedish model, so to speak. Is there an Australian one? I mean, is there any legislative requirement for businesses to carry cash or do cash transactions at this stage, or is that what you want to see happen?
Yes, there's a limited protection. Every trader needs to be able to offer a non-surcharge method of payment.
Right.
So that gives us some protection. But of course,
But what does that mean? I mean, does that mean they have to do cash transactions, or is there a way, are there loopholes, no surcharge?
There's loopholes. That they could absorb the cost of the card scheme themselves,
Yep.
and then consumers paying for it in the price rather than a surcharge.
Yeah, sorry, I interrupted your stream of consciousness there.
That's right. Yes, well, they have to, the retailer or merchant, hotel has to be able to provide a service that has no surcharge. So cash has no surcharge. But they could absorb the card payments and therefore just build it into the price of the pies or pasties or bread, and therefore they could avoid cash that way by having the surcharge built into the price.
I mean, it is a fascinating area because, of course, there is a cost of using cash, and I've seen RBA figures to put this at 1 or 2% in terms of slippage or leakage, which is a polite word for loss or theft, security, all the other stuff you have to do around money. So actually, all payment systems come with costs attached, but it's how transparent it is and how the merchant passes that back to consumer, either in the prices or with the surcharge, which they're allowed to do with cards.
Yes, that's 100% correct. I mean, I had dinner at a restaurant in Manly called Queen Chow recently, and it cost me $7.80 to use my card. I mean, I think
Ouch.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, it was a $475 meal for some family and friends. Now, if you paid $7.80 to get cash out, it'd be front page news.
Well, mind you, Chris, I've been to some of those independent APMs, and they whack you with a bit of a fee.
Yeah, they do. 87% of all cash transactions via ATMs are free in Australia because they're through the banks. But the balance are independent ATMs, and we have some of those ourselves, and we charge an average of $2.60.
And that's very much, because it's very much a convenience that you offer in clubs or gaming venues of things. So, I mean, it's interesting. People go crazy over ATM fees, where I think there's some justification as long as it's transparent, but actually let all sorts of other fees, which hit them up far, as your example for that restaurant, which are far more outrageous. Yes,
and every time you tap, there's a fee. So. And they don't advertise it, whereas with the small number of transactions, there's 13%, I think, 17% in Australia that go through surcharge ATMs. The fee has to be mentioned before you progress past window 2.
Yeah.
So you get this note that says, are you prepared to pay $2.50, $2.60 or whatever?
And the other end of the scale, isn't the government trying to stop transactions over a certain amount of cash?
Yes, well, they've legislated, and it's been supported by both houses, that you can't pay for more than $10,000 for any goods or services in cash. It's a negligible part of the community. I mean, I've never paid $10,000 cash to anyone at all. Never had that opportunity.
It has had a few people up in arms, though, hasn't it, I think?
It has. It has a lot of people. Any restrictions there are causing a lot of fuss. So, but we're not overly concerned about that one. It's a lot of money, $10,000 cash. So
you've made some interesting points, Tim. We've got to wind it up. Appreciate your time today.
Thank you.
Yeah, thank
all
you,
the
Tim.
best.
Yeah,
same to you.
Cash is king.
Thanks, mate. Bye-bye.
That's Tim Wildash, who's the CEO of an organisation, a company called Next Payments. Chris, it's that time of the week once again.
Don't you dare go anywhere.